Just slide into his DMs.
I actually could probably.
Who the fuck can get us Bo? Can somebody out there get us Bo Jackson? I've been talking about this for years. I don't ask. I shoot a lot of videos. I pump out a lot of content to people. I try to help people squat, bench, and deadlift more. I created a product to help people's shoulders and to allow people to bench more weight. And no one can just help me out with Bo Jackson. I know it's a tall order, but come on.
That is kind of surprising though. With like everybody that you know,
Yeah.
no one can really get to him.
Yeah, come on.
There's got to be somebody.
I think Nsima is trying to prevent all this from happening because it'd be the first time we have somebody genetically superior.
Is he though?
Bo.
No,
I'm joking.
Bo, do you know Nsima?
that was pretty good.
Oh man.
Yeah, Bo, are you?
He probably still has like a 50-inch vertical right now.
What I thought was crazy when we interviewed Larry Wheels, it was like Larry Wheels, he didn't go to school when he was young. Like his mom, I think they moved, I'm probably getting this wrong, and I apologize, but they moved to some island. I want to say the Virgin Islands, but I could be way off. I don't know where he's from. I know that he lives in New York, and then his parents separated, and he moved away. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have a traditional upbringing. He didn't go to school. I think he might have eventually been like homeschooled and something like that, but he's like, I just sat around and played video games a lot, and I got outside and I moved around, and I was always doing stuff, but I was like, did you play any sports? And he's like, nope. And I was like, kind of trying to figure out like how is this guy so strong? Like what is, and he was just said that anytime he went to do anything, he was just better than everybody.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking like, what popped into my head because of like his frame and his size and his height and stuff, I was thinking of like Eddie George, he used to play for Ohio State and then went on to play for the Titans. I was thinking like, this guy could be like, Larry Wheels could be a Hall of Fame running back for all that we know. He just never, no one ever put a ball in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really know what could have been. Who knows what the hell he could have done?
Yeah.
I mean, he's still doing great. Look, he's still doing amazing things. He's doing strongman. He's doing bodybuilding. He's doing powerlifting. And he's mesmerized the world with how freaking strong he is.
Yeah.
And then just the other day, he deadlifted almost 1,000 pounds with that strap across his back. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
After
it was like he just came up with his back.
That Spud Inc. Strap, I think it is. And that's after he tore his bicep. Tore his bicep a couple days ago. Wish him well on that. Hope he gets better quickly. It sucks when you get hurt, and so hopefully he's able to come back from that. But yeah, like I don't know, like maybe that guy could have been a Bo Jackson for all we know.
Yeah, no, I think he could have played almost any sport other than like maybe pro basketball, or maybe he could have done that too. He probably has hops, but he's just so good at everything. He's so strong. He's so explosive. I don't see him really being bad at anything.
Did you get a chance to see Bones Jones fight?
Yeah, I did.
Isn't it just there's something like I know that fight wasn't like a spectacular fight, but there's just man, I don't know about the people listening to this and stuff, but anytime I get a chance to see greatness, I used to be a really big basketball fan. I don't watch it as much as I used to. I wish I was still into it a little bit more. But like when Kobe played, I tried to always catch him. And I wasn't even a Kobe fan. I just loved
my favorite player.
I loved the mindset that he had. He was a beast. He was a freaking animal. He was just always practicing, and he just wanted to kill the other team. And anytime I got a chance when I was young to watch Jordan, my dad even took me to the Bulls versus Knicks playoff game. And it's that famous play on the baseline where Jordan beats Stark around the corner, and they show it all the time. And I was at that game, and it was sick.
Dang.
But I mean, I love basketball. I love watching competition. But anytime I get a chance to see someone great, even when Tiger was whooping up on people in golf, and I know he came back recently, but I love watching greatness, and watching Bones Jones just gives me chills, man. When I'm watching it, even like when he blocks something or he's not doing anything that spectacular that other fighters can't do, but every once in a while you just see this little shade of like greatness, and you're like, ooh, what was that?
Yeah.
You see these different things, and unfortunately the other guy ended up with a pretty bad injury, and man, that guy was tough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so clear that Bones is just, and not everything, you're not always going to knock everybody out. I mean, the people in the UFC are the real deal, and I don't think people understand this. any person that he's ever fought could catch him with something
Yeah.
and knock his ass out. Because they could certainly, knock out just about anybody else, right? I mean, these guys have. These are good fighters. They've clipped people. They've caught people with kicks and punches and stuff. And here he is just looking like he's going through a practice session.
Yeah, no, like even when you watch that fight over again, it really just seems like once he saw that knee was messed up, knowing how good of a fighter he is, it really just seems that he was just wanting to win by points and let the fight go by. Like he just wanted to take that win, go out and like without damage or anything. And it almost seemed like he didn't want to like mess the other guy up too much either.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, because obviously like you're taking a risk like that, right?
Right.
But it really just seemed like he just wanted to let the fight go by without harming that guy too much.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that if you were grappling with somebody, obviously, like you're going for points and you're going for certain things, but like if the other guy wasn't really doing much to you and you felt like, especially like if you felt 100% like, okay, I'm a purple belt and this guy at best is maybe like a white belt, or maybe this guy at best has been doing this for 2 years. I clearly have this in hand. I'm just going to kind of keep going. And if an opportunity comes, I'm going to take it. But if I don't really see anything, I'm not really going to risk myself.
Yeah. That's exactly what it seemed like. And another guy who does that a lot is Floyd Mayweather. That's why people hate watching his fights, because he'll just points. He'll just score them every single round and then win at the end. So
60, what is he, 60 or 50-0 or something
it's
like
like
that?
51. 50 or 51-0. Yeah.
There's nothing anybody can do about that.
No.
Just so crazy because he's like pretty old now.
Yeah, he's getting up there. He's not getting any younger, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I saw Bones just the other day that he just posted a thing. It was like 2 days ago, or maybe it was just yesterday. But he was just kind of, I don't know, just moving around the bag, just like moving his head and like shuffling from one way to the other, just kind of working on footwork. And there was nobody else in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously there's somebody filming him or whatever, but he's just covered head to toe in sweat. And I just thought to myself, like, that's the big difference that no one wants to talk about. People just want to say he's talented. It's easier for people just to say that.
Yeah.
It's easy just to be like, oh man, he's a super talented guy, and he's got these amazing genetics, and it's easy just to pass it off on that. But nobody wants to talk about the stuff that he's doing kind of behind the scenes. And I wrote on his Instagram, and I was like, I think that's the separator, is like that you just love it. You're there by yourself. You're dodging punches, or the bag's not throwing punches at you, but you're, pretending and you're playing. And that's like a true love for it. Like you can't, there's no way to like fake that. I know there's thousands of other athletes in the sport that love it, but he's got the combination of loving it and being skilled and having great genetics.
Yeah. And, I almost hate it when people say, oh, this person's, when you see someone who's really good at doing something, there might be a smidge of talent in there, but when it comes down to it, I really don't think it comes down to that talent. I think there are just certain people that do much more work than others consistently, like Kobe. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Kobe definitely was an athlete, but he wasn't always that way. But Kobe is notorious for watching hours and hours and hours of footage. And he's notorious for always being in the gym before his teammates and in the gym after his teammates. So you can't attribute all of that to talent, because everyone in the NBA is talented.
Yeah.
Everyone has, like, there are more guys in the NBA that were way more athletic than Kobe, but they didn't have his level of like scoring ability. They didn't put in the work that he did. Same thing with Jones.
I think that's why he probably like couldn't see, eye to eye with Shaq. I mean, Shaq is really interesting. It's like, when I think about like the different athletes over the years and think about that, you can kind of pick somebody that you would like to be like. And I think like I would love to be Shaq for a day, like probably more so than anything else, because it seems like he has so much fun. Or maybe even like a Brett Favre. Like Brett Favre seemed like he had a lot of fun. He played a lot of years, got the shit beat out of him a lot of times. He won a lot of games. But you see him joking around the sidelines. And then you have other guys. You got like guys like Tom Brady or like Dan Marino. You see this old footage of Dan Marino always screaming at his wide receivers, like just so infuriated with them. there's different ways to be a champion. There's different ways to go about doing it. But sometimes some people are so overly talented they make it look really easy. And I'm sure that Shaq, I mean, Shaq probably his biggest battle was probably himself all the time
Yeah.
because he was just such a big guy, and it's like he probably had to figure out the ways of tricking himself to stay in shape and to not overeat and not get too fat. But I remember like in the Super Bowl with the Eagles, Terrell Owens was like so mad at Terrell Owens is another guy. Like people just again they want to just be like, oh, he's got these great genetics. It's like Terrell Owens is jacked.
Yeah.
Like I mean, people do have good genetics, but they don't have genetics that just give you muscle like that. I mean, that guy works out hard.
He does.
And he's always in shape, and he played in the Super Bowl with a fucking broken leg. And I remember he was talking shit on Donovan McNabb afterwards. He's like, Donovan's throwing up in a huddle. He's like, we can't win that way. And then it became this kind of big press thing and everything. But I think that some guys are like, look, man, you're not putting in the work that's needed to be the best. And you know, I think in the case of like Shaq and Kobe, I think that was kind of always the thing. I think Kobe was always he maybe thought Shaq was lazy. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, Shaq even admitted that. Like later on after basketball, he's like, "Yeah, I didn't, practice as much as Kobe." And he hated that he didn't do that. So they always butt heads because of that. Because like Shaq is very talented, like you mentioned. He is the definition of having great genetics and having a lot of talent. And since he was just so big, he could just dunk on everybody and body everybody because he outweighed everyone by like 60 pounds.
Yeah, and he was always sought after since he was a kid too.
Yeah.
So he was always like, oh, you should appreciate me for even showing up today, even if I am late or whatever the case, you know. And yeah, that did drive Kobe nuts.
But it's just like, but you see, like, do you remember the first time that Shaq and Yao met in the NBA and how Yao just like dominated Shaq in that first game? You know, he like that was Yao's rookie season. He was younger than Shaq, and he just made Shaq look like a boy. And he was just shooting over him. And that's the thing. Like, Yao was someone who practiced a lot and had to use a lot of technique, and Shaq just couldn't handle that.
Yeah.
So that's important.
They talk about that a lot. I mean, when the other countries started to kind of catch up to what was going on here in the U.S. with basketball, they talked about the skill set of the other players and how they were able to pass and dribble. And it was kind of like a throwback back to when everybody on the court was white, pretty much. People had all these, they had these attributes that you see again today because it had to come back because people had to have the fundamentals of being able to just to flat out shoot.
Yeah.
You can't just like drive the lane like you could a few years back. I mean, they call fouls on everything, and it's just sport's different. But you better be buttoned up on your kind of basics, your skill set.
Yeah.
You know, and remember when we had Cody Schlesinger here, we were joking with him about his basketball players. He was like, on my team at Stanford, he's like, sometimes at the end of the game with some of those other like Ivy League schools and some of those other teams, he's like, there might be all white guys in the court. He's like, the game's over at that point.
In Tim S. Grover's book, he said he worked with Kobe, and he was like, draft night, biggest night of your life, blah, blah, blah. What did Kobe do? That night he went back to the gym to go work out.
That's why I freaking love Kobe. Like, that's why he's literally my favorite basketball player, because like, even though he wasn't, let's say, as great as Jordan, or maybe LeBron might be better than him too, he just worked so much harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
And even though like he was so good, he continued to put in that work over and over and over, which is why like when people say, oh, he's super talented, I don't like, yeah, he was talented, but it doesn't, it's not because he was talented that he was so good. It's not because of his talent. It's because he literally just outworked everybody, and he made sure that everybody knew he outworked them too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then same thing happened with Dwight Howard too when he went to the Lakers. I guess he called him and he was like, "Oh, what's up, Kobe? Like, yeah, the ankle, the knee, whatever it is." He's like, "It's it's about 80%." Kobe just goes, "Good, we have a lot of work to do." Click, and that was it. And so, that's not, again, for someone like Dwight Howard, who's been given, well, not given, but he's been like received so well everywhere he's gone, to finally hear somebody be like, okay, and what?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You haven't done shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's why that didn't work out either.
Yeah.
But watching some of this old footage of Shaq, it's crazy how close Shaq gets to the basket all the time. And Yao Ming is kicking his ass.
He literally like he swatted him twice, and that's never happened to Shaq before that point. No one has been able to hit that ball out of Shaq's hand like that.
Yeah.
So. He did it 2 times in a row.
God, I used to love. I mean, I just as a kid, I mean, I remember getting so excited. It was such a cool time. There was, Bo Jackson, and there was Barry Sanders, and there was Mike Tyson. Like watching a Mike Tyson fight would like almost make you sick to your stomach because you I don't know, you didn't know what the hell was going to happen. And then later in his career, the fights got a little more weird because I just I mean, you just didn't know, like, are they just throwing him these like these shit fights because they're making so much money off it? Like,
What about
but when he was young and he was coming through and he's just dominating, grown men. He's 19 years old and he's
and how about
smashing people.
How about the fact that he was fighting like every 2 weeks?
Yeah, he
Dude,
fought a lot.
It was like, like you think about that today, it's like, oh, like no, these guys fight once every 2 years.
He was really fighting every 2
like
weeks.
every other week. He was like fighting
man,
like
that's
some
crazy.
like Mark just said, a 19-year-old against
When
a
he was
grown
young,
man.
when he was in the beginning of his career, he fought very often. It's it seemed like it was like that. I don't know, like if he fought every month or something like that, but he fought a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting from Bones Jones right now, and we got that out of Conor McGregor for a few years. That was really cool too. I mean, these guys don't have to do that. They can sit back and the UFC is going to put some pressure on you, but you can kind of take your time with your fights. But Bones, he wants to be active. I think he said something like he wants to defend his title 20 times or something. And then maybe peace out because like what else is there to do? But I hope he doesn't get distracted. I hope he doesn't get distracted with some sort of like, not that I think he'll get distracted and like, end up making a bad decision. But I mean like in terms of the fights, because people are like, oh, what about like him and Brock Lesnar? It's like, come on, it's like Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is an amazing athlete, but he's not Bones. I mean, he'll get killed by Bones Jones. And then that doesn't make sense for Bones because he's got to step up in body weight and things like that. I mean, hopefully he doesn't get involved in these like dream fights because I think usually they're kind of crap.
Yeah. Then outside the octagon, of course, I think it was this morning I was reading another article about some previous thing that happened at a strip club. Is like, it's a whole nother thing that he's gonna have to deal with. Yeah, it's one of those things, where it's like, no, not again. But and like I said, I think it's from like a long time ago, but it just surfaced again now. Because maybe they're pressing charges now or something where he got like a waitress like in a chokehold or something. Like if they're just playing
Maybe
around or
joke,
whatever.
But then she's like, no.
But she's like, oh wait,
yeah, he does that at shows sometimes. He like chokes people out. I'm like, why?
Yeah. So it again, we don't know what happened. Like she probably was.
Could you imagine any scenario at all where Hoist Gracie?
No.
Would be like shaking hands, and then he'd be like, "Yeah, let me put you in a,"
no.
Or the person would be like, "Hey, can you choke me?" He'd be like, "If you try to fight me, maybe, but other than that, I'm not choking you." I mean, it's very dangerous.
It is. That's a very.
I mean, what do
easy
you
way to
guys
see
do
it.
at practice? Like, do sometimes people go lights out, or they tap out a little earlier, or does it get scary sometimes?
Sometimes people go lights out, but the thing is, the only way that people go lights out is if they're a little bit too stubborn on tapping. That's what usually happens when they're like, they're trying to escape, but they really can't.
Because it's usually not slow. It's usually like once the
Depends on the choke.
Once the grip is there, it's pretty obvious that it's about to happen, right?
But some will come on faster than others. Like chokes that end up being on the side of the neck, especially here. Like some people don't think they're going to get tapped out, and then they're already out.
Andrew, have you ever felt that pressure before of what that feels like?
Not to where it's like, oh shit, like it's about to happen.
Dude, it is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like just for the sake of feeling it, like you should feel it. Like when Nsima just I'm not even talking about him clamping it on. I'm talking about him just giving you an opportunity to tap. You'll be like, oh my. And like, there's so many other things he could do from there too. Like getting somebody in the proper choke. And if he inhales, it takes some breath into his diaphragm and then he climbs on you a little bit. And then with his arms and his forearm,
slowly tightens.
I mean, it's like, it is so crazy. Like the world just goes, whoop. It just flashes right. And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, no, I've never. I mean, just like digging around with friends that like knew a tiny bit.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, let me just see what it felt, and like even that was nothing.
It's wild with somebody that knows what they're doing. They have the right positioning, and they just push your head a little bit forward. That's kind of what you do on some of these chokes, right? Push the head a little bit forward. It is like I don't even know how to describe it, but it is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened at our school, but like, yeah, some people have gone out, but sometimes when people go out, they poop themselves.
Yeah.
So like,
I'll definitely
yeah, no,
do that.
that's happened at other schools where like someone will go out and then you just hear, you know, and then it smells like doo doo. So you got to be careful with that. Some people are just too
What
stubborn.
happens? A guy get kicked off the team if he shit like, hey, dude, listen, man, it was great having you around, but you you pooped your pants last time you were
I
here.
would not come back. I literally would not come back to the school if that happened to me.
I mean, you kind of pooped your pants in the locker room.
Did I? Yeah, I did.
And
Actually.
went to the
yeah,
sauna.
Yeah, I did. I went into the sauna. That
I guess no one made
no
you.
one knew
Yeah. Okay.
except now, but like,
Except for now, the world knows.
yeah, but it's no big deal.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, you're coming up on 2 years being with your old lady.
Yeah, that's today.
It's today.
Yeah,
Congratulations,
July
dude.
22nd. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I
That's
appreciate
fucking
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
It's,
super cool. And then you met her at like a coffee shop or
Yeah, I
something,
met
right?
her at Starbucks. Yeah.
Starbucks.
Slid into her DMs and it was on from there.
She could hear your romantic voice through the DM.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, it was cool. Like when I met her, I asked for a coworker about her. He tried to like, I guess he was trying to tell me like she was or she wasn't in a relationship because he's trying to protect her. But then I thought she was, so I didn't talk to her for a while. So she went for weeks without me talking to her. And she's like, why is this dude going to ask about me and not talk to me? So then she got my name from like the coffee cup, followed me on Instagram. I woke up in the morning. I was like, yes. And then I slid right in those DMs like that real quick.
I'd imagine you haven't been turned down too many times in your life.
Well, you know what? No, like that's like
Don't
Like-
make stuff up all of a sudden.
I don't think Nsima like went into like deep training, like bodybuilding training, because he couldn't get a chick or something, right?
Right. Yeah.
I
no,
don't
there's,
have game.
There's
Like,
not that
no.
Rocky montage where he got turned down. Like, that's it.
That's the thing. I'm not like a smooth dude. Though. Like I
just
speak
think-
the way I speak.
Yeah. I think the only way a guy like yourself can get in trouble is if you just talk too much.
Yeah, you
Because
know
then
what?
you can just talk the girl out of the situation. She'd be like, "Oh man, that guy's
yeah.
too into lifting, or he's too into nutrition, or he's too into jujitsu." Like that's the only time you could probably,
Yeah, that's why I just let them talk about themselves, and they love to do that.
but not your girlfriend.
Oh no, no, not my girlfriend. Not my girlfriend. No.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
LA was pretty damn fun. We got to get down there with what's that guy's name? Myko Trent. Is that his last name?
Yeah.
Tren?
Yeah, Michael Tren.
Huh. Like
I
the
think
drug.
he changed it to Hearn like when he was 27 or 28.
Oh.
But it's
Because of the
original-
allegations.
Because of the allegations, but it actually is Michael Tren.
Is that lawsuit still going, or?
Yeah, it is. It's still open, but I think
Hmm.
he's just been dodging it year after year. So we'll see what happens.
How's the guy so jacked? And how's he so strong? What do we got to do? How do we defeat this Tren?
I don't know if he can be defeated. I think like he just has to age a little bit more.
Can we like take away his? But he's getting stronger with age.
Yeah.
Can we just maybe like poison him or something?
I'm pretty
I
sure
think
people
that's
have
been
tried. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And he
People
just
have attempted that.
It's really funny because Mike and I, we really do enjoy hanging out with each other. And he keeps texting me. He's like, "When are you coming back?" He's like setting up this thing in late July, and he's like, "You got to come back down." And he's all excited about it. But it is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun to work out, and then to have you guys experience it is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
Because look, we all love training, we all love getting after it, but it's like, man, that guy, he loves it, and he's loved it for 30 years, you know?
Mhm. You know, like when people watch him train, like when he was doing like the deadlift thing that he was doing, right, where he was like trying to engage his lower lats or whatever with the deadlift, when you see comments on YouTube just like, "Oh, you're gonna tear your bicep," or "Oh, that doesn't make any sense," like sometimes you just maybe should just try something, because he was doing not just that movement, but there were so many other unconventional movements that if you look at like an exercise science textbook, it'd be like, no, don't do that. Retract your scapula first and do this and that. But when you do certain things that he's talking about, you will feel certain muscle groups activate that you don't typically feel activate that much.
Yeah.
So it's just so many people were like dissing the rows that we were doing and stuff. And I'm just like, yo, you just got to try it. Because I thought I wouldn't feel something, but I did.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and be open and try some different things. I think there's two main take home lessons from Michael Hearn is like, or I guess maybe three. One is consistency. Like if you're just relentless with your consistency, if you figure out a way just to get there every day, then that's a big part of the battle. And I think, most of the people listening to this podcast that lift and stuff probably don't need like this big old motivational speech, but just understand that if you're not pumped about where you're at right now, if you stick with it for a long time, you will be.
Yeah.
Tom Bilyeu, who we'll talk about in a little bit, he recently had a great post that he talked about on Instagram TV where he said, if given a long enough timeline, you can catch anybody in just about anything. and then he went on to say, the problem with that statement is that it's not really 100% true, because some people will just always be ahead. He said, however, what if you put in that effort? How many people are you going to pass? That is really cool. So somebody might be stronger than you. They might be leaner than you. They may be this or that than you. You can work your way towards that. You can work your way beyond that. And who knows, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you might have to wait till you're 50 to beat that other person that's better than you right now at 25. But if you stay consistent, you'll get there.
Yeah.
The other thing that I love that Mike does is, every time he is in the gym, he brings it, obviously. So it's not just, I have never really been in the gym with him. I've never been in the gym with him where it was like we're just going through the motions. I've worked on smaller muscle groups like shoulders and stuff, and it definitely has a way different feel than deadlifting or squatting, right? Mm-hmm. But you're always working your face off. Consistency, working your face off. And then the third thing that I really love that he does, and this is something everyone can and should incorporate, is don't always worry about the weight. Even though Mike is so consistent and he's been doing it for so long that he's going to use a lot of weight on a lot of these things, it's not how much weight you're lifting, and it's not necessarily even just the exercise itself, but it's how you're executing it and what is the result. What are you trying to do with it? So Mike is he's insanely knowledgeable about training. He's not going to come at you like he's got a PhD or something like that, but he's pretty simple when it comes to some of his training methods. Like the first exercise that we did was kind of a mass builder, kind of something to thicken up the back, quote unquote. I know this is bro science. People get all pissed off, right? But bro science works. There's a reason, there's a reason why these bros have developed some of these training methods. It's because they work. And then the secondary movements that we got into, those are all the ones that are going to kind of shape the muscle. And basically all that he means by that is it's an exercise where your strength is limited by the governing rules of how you're doing the exercise. So a very easy example for everybody to digest is, let's do a barbell overhead press standing and get them over your head whatever way you can. Well, we can all picture and envision that you're going to do more weight on that. I mean, even if you're not super strong at them, even if you can handle, let's just say 100 pounds, with a barbell, that's not breaking any world records by any means. We can all understand that would be a greater load than what you would handle in, say, like a lateral raise, and so therefore the lateral raise kind of gets associated more with shaping the muscles, and also that's the kind of stuff a bodybuilder may do as the show gets closer. They might be doing higher reps of those. The other part of it too that plays into it all is that you can really see the muscle working on exercises like that. When it comes to like an overhead press, you're not going to see the muscles working as much, and you're not going to feel it as much. So a lot of what he says, people do get bent out of shape about the bro science of it all. But shit, man, it works. He's jacked, and I was feeling every bit of what he was showing us.
Yeah, no, it's not like, it's not just because he's jacked like that. People really just need to try some of the things he's talking about and give them an honest shot. Like when we were doing those rows where our back was bent forward, right, and we were rowing the bar towards ourselves to activate the rear delts, that was insane. Like the activation that I felt in my rear delts was pretty damn crazy. But when you look at the position you're in, you're doing a seated row, your back is bent. It's like so contrary to what anybody would say this is the way you would row. If you saw someone doing that in gym, you're like, oh, you're going to hurt your back. But if you actually try it and try to activate those specific muscle groups that he's talking about, you'll feel so much more activation than you would with like maybe a typical face pull. So that's the thing. Like he really is just he looks at training from a lot of different angles that you don't typically see from like, you know, your normal 24-hour fitness personal trainer or whatever. You're just normal trainers that go by the book. He really looks at it from so many different angles, which is why he probably looks the way he does. You know?
How was it for you getting an opportunity to work out with him after, like, you've been in bodybuilding for a long time? I'm sure you are well aware of who Mike O'Hearn is before you and I even have ever really met.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was it like for you?
Dude, no, it was awesome. Like the deadlifting stuff was cool. I was just trying to like see how he was showing stuff to other people too. Like one cool thing about Mike is that when he saw me or anybody else, like maybe doing something a little bit off from the way that he would do it, right? He'd tell you to adjust to one thing, like literally just one thing, and then it would feel totally different. So like I could understand, okay, he knows what he's talking about. He knows how to make the changes so you can feel things in a certain way. And then again, just the big thing was just like, I liked seeing how he would add different things to movements like this deadlift, right?
Shit, man, he's so strong. Like that just looks.
Yeah, he was in control of everything he was doing, no matter how heavy it was. Which is
that's a great word. He's always in control of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I try to copy with whatever load I'm working with. I like to make sure that I can feel it where I want to feel it and I can control it. So yeah, man, he's just like he's extremely knowledgeable. He's not just like some big dude. Like he knows what he's doing, and he does a lot of unconventional stuff.
This is an interesting thing is like, and I know we're always swinging off of Mike O'Hearn's nuts over here. And I know that you guys hear us talk about him all the time, but he really is impressive. He's an impressive guy to be around. He's motivational and inspirational without going down. He doesn't give you, I'm not trying to give you like a motivational speech. He just is. He just is that guy that he's always going to be really difficult to get ahead of. He's always going to be difficult to beat on anything. And so that's why, you know, we get so excited. That's why we talk about him so much. But it's great to, you know, share information with him. And even like in this training session, it was cool for me because I was able to talk to him and talk to his crew about the form and technique. Mike has good mobility.
He
so
does.
Mike will squat down to the bar and almost like squat his deadlifts up, whether he's pulling them conventional or sumo. Most of the time I don't advise that for people, but I have run into athletes that have been Olympic lifters before or people that have just been very mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, you know what, that actually looks like it's going to work for you. It looks good for you. And so I will allow some people to have that lower hip position, but most of the time people end up doing kind of a two-part lift and it doesn't look very good. But with Mike, he's able to squat down, you know, super low, get down to the weight, and you know, it's just a different looking deadlift. But yeah, trying to bend those arms, that was really different for me. I was like, I don't know how this is going to feel, but just like Nsima's pointing out, there I am spotting him from the back. Like Nsima's pointing out, just give it a shot and do it with really light weight. Try it with a plate. But if you curl 135, if you do, you know, I don't know, just curl your arms up like 25 or 15% or so.
Yeah.
And do a deadlift, it'll feel so much lighter.
Mm-hmm.
The bar will be a lot closer into your body, and it's really important that you keep that bar close. You know, watching this video right now, and it's kind of annoying because you're wearing a tank top, and so I used to have excuses when I'd see you in a regular shirt. I was like, oh well, Nsima, he's obviously wearing football shoulder pads underneath his t-shirts. That's why his shoulders are so big. But now I can actually just see that it's actually your shoulders. Now I hate you more than I did before.
Yeah.
Which is pretty high.
Thank
the
you.
hatred's going pretty high.
I appreciate that.
You did great on this day. Did it feel good to be able to handle some weight too?
Oh yeah, no, it definitely did. I felt a little bit of I don't know if when I went up to 5 plates initially.
Yeah, I kind of pushed you to go a little heavier.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a twinge in the back, but it was nothing major. And then when I went up to 6, like that, you pushed me to go up to 6, and I'm happy you did because nothing got worse. So, yeah, it was cool. It was good. I was happy to see that I could still pause 605 well. It wasn't too bad. Actually, it wasn't bad at all. But yeah, it was really fun.
Did it feel good for him? I mean, he came over to you and like almost passed the torch over to you. He was like, he said you're strong, and I think I think from what I remember, I think he said you're stronger than me, and
He
that
said
was
I'm
impressive.
stronger than him, but like being real, I'm not. Like I think like, we know that I'm definitely not stronger than Mike O'Hearn. But I'm catching up. It'll take years,
Yeah.
but we're catching up.
Yeah, that workout was a lot of fun. It's again, it's not always about how much weight you're lifting, but it's about how you're lifting it as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
if if you're like us here at Super Training Gym, sometimes we get the opportunity to train in some groups. Don't just train with the group, and don't just, if you have a training partner, don't just lift the same weight as it. Just lift what you need to lift.
Yeah.
Lift what you need to lift. And if somebody's doing a 5x5, but they're going 5 seconds on the way down and pausing for 2 seconds, match that. But don't worry about matching the weight. Match the purpose, match the meaning behind it, and learn how this shit's supposed to feel. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, it's even when you were mentioning the lighter weight thing, like there are so many movements in the gym that, especially like the smaller movements where I definitely could do more weight, but I don't because I don't like I start to feel it in other places, So it's almost laughable sometimes the light weight that I work with, but the activation I feel when doing that is just so much more than if I increased it by 10 or 15 pounds. And it looks some like if other like the single arm dumbbell rows, not single arm dumbbell rows, the hammer strength row, right? There are a lot of guys I see in here that are doing like 4 plates.
Oh, going ham on it, right?
But if I did 4 plates, like I start feeling it in my arms and other places. Like I stick to like maybe 2 plates and a quarter because I feel all of that in my lats. So like just you don't need to go super heavy with everything. Deadlifts and big compounds, yeah, but some of your accessories, focus on where you're trying to feel that.
Something to give some notice to is just remember everything that you do in the course of a day has a price. Everything that you do in the course of a day has a price. And so, if you're somebody who really loves to do 10 exercises in the gym every single time you go, that might be a little ambitious. That might be a little overkill. You might want to try to bring that into like a 4 to 6 and have a main focus with it. And you might want to put a little more purpose behind it. Or as Nsima's pointing out, maybe do the lift, maybe execute the lift better rather than worrying about the type of weight that's on there. It's something that, I've learned a long time ago, but it's something that I've only implemented more recently was like, let's not waste time doing anything unless there's like, can I apply a purpose to this? And I don't have to always do that, but for the most part, can I say, if someone said, hey, why are you doing this? Can I give them a decent reason? If not, then maybe I shouldn't do it. If the reason is just because you want to get a little pump on your way out the door, that's okay.
Yeah.
Those are okay. It's okay to have those little wins at the end, or you just wanted to blast out some extra reps on something, but also understand that has a cost to it. Let's say you had a really great bench session. You did 2 movements and you're moving on to maybe you're working on some close grip stuff and you just want to rep it out or something like that. Keep in mind, it's got a cost to it. Do you want to get that feeling right then, or would you rather kind of starve off that feeling for a greater reward at some other point? Maybe by not doing an AMRAP set of deadlifts out of nowhere that wasn't scheduled isn't great because it's Tuesday and you're supposed to deadlift again on Friday. So you're right. Like, and I'm not saying you can't go for it. If you want to, you should, but at the same time, I think it makes the most sense to curb it all in a little bit so that you're ferocious when it's time to actually do it.
No, you're right. Like there's I think even myself, I used to have the tendency of trying to like have every single workout, leave it there every single workout, right? So using failure a lot, you're doing a lot of AMRAPs and you feel like you had a great workout, but then your next session you're a bit beat up. Your next session you're beat up. Your next session you're beat up. Then you got to take a little bit of a break.
You're like, my elbow, my forearm,
Right?
my shoulder.
Yeah.
It's like maybe those things, you have to analyze, why do those things hurt? Are you doing too much stuff? Are you not getting enough rest? We always want to try to blame it on like the movement, or we want to try to put a wrap or a strap or something on it to try to cover it up, a knee sleeve, an elbow sleeve. And we sell product here, and of course we're going to do that. But that's not going to solve anything. That's just going to kind of mask it. So you have to figure out like, what's the root cause of this? The root cause of it is probably the fact that you're training like an idiot.
One thing Mike O'Hearn doesn't do is train like an idiot. That's why he's lasted so long.
That was something else I wanted to bring up, and I almost forgot, is that people always point out the fact that Mike has never been hurt. And it's not really true. Mike has been banged up just as much as the next guy. Luckily for him, he hasn't had a tear. He hasn't had anything really, really big. He calls them owies. He's had a few owies here and there. And the other thing to keep in mind with Mike, though, he's done such a good job of he doesn't really compete. Now, he competes all the time because he's an animal and because he's just getting after it all the time, right?
Yeah.
But he's not trying to step on a stage in competition in bodybuilding really anymore. He does mostly guest appearance, and so it's competition against himself to push himself to see how lean he can get. And the competition in the gym is against himself. The guys that he normally works out with are strong, but they're younger guys, and they're not nearly as big and nearly as strong as he is. And so he's not even in constant competition in his training. The point is that he stays in his own lane. And when somebody says, oh, man, Mike's never been hurt, that is very true. But when I watch him, I think people are not understanding how intelligent he is when it comes to his training, because most of the lifts he does are pretty easy. And even on this day, he could have lifted more.
He definitely could have.
He could have went up. He could have probably, done the same weight you did and stuff like that. But he knows in his head, like, that's not smart. He probably walked in with a plan, or after he touched 3 plates and 4 plates, he probably kind of had developed a plan. He knew that wasn't smart for him to do on that day. And that takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's the thing. That's why a lot of times I don't touch a lot of heavy weights on certain days, just because I know it's not the greatest idea. He's, again, you could tell, like, I know that Mike could lift much more than me on deadlifts. I'm pretty sure, but you don't see him do deadlifts that heavy, probably just because he just knows he doesn't need to. He's not trying to prove anything. He's just trying to, better himself over time and see what he can do.
Andrew, what's the hardest part for that with you? Like, if we're training like in a group, and somebody's got 365 or 350, someone's got 315 on there, and you're capable of doing it, but that you should still take those intermediate. Like, what's the hardest part for you on stuff like that?
Definitely the ego, but more of like, oh, sorry, Nsima, like I gotta drop the weight. Like, I don't want to like mess up your workout. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I know you're like, oh, that doesn't matter. The weight comes on and off. But for me, that means I have to get the jack, and lift that up. So it's going to just take me a little bit longer. The other part is, it's like, I know I can do that. Like, I'm just going to go for it since it's already there. But then what you were just saying, like, that's now going to hinder the rest of the workout and the rest of the week, especially if my back's tweaked, I would say that's probably the biggest factor when it comes to not wanting to drop the weight.
Yeah, and everybody's dealing with like plates and quarters and plate quarter, and you're like, oh, I got to take a plate off and put a 10 on. It's like you feel like you're bumming everybody out or something like that.
That's exactly what I feel.
The honest truth of it is that no one cares. And secondly, I always think that the only way you can hurt the group is not to participate.
Yes.
Like that's the key ingredient to raining on everybody's parade. It's just to completely not participate. And so to have you lift and do the same set of 3 as the other guy did is awesome, because now I get to invest my time in you and watch you and get excited from what you did. And now I may be hyped up, or maybe I'm more focused on my next lift. And it really helps with that kind of camaraderie and building that kind of team environment. So I always think, the worst thing you do is like kind of sit in a. That's why we have the no headphone rule in the gym. It's like I don't want people like off on their own, not participating, not at least standing around. I mean, how much difference does it make when you go to do a lift? No one's really paying attention because you're doing your warm ups. But now, even if people don't say stuff, if they just kind of go over to where you're at and they watch you lift, it makes you feel better.
Yeah,
it gives you some encouragement.
I used to not understand it, and now it's like when it's not there, it's like, oh shit. Somebody just call my name in the middle of, in the gym. And then so back to like the like what deters me from taking weight off. Before I was able to like rep 315 on the deadlift, it was the fact that I could not rep 315. So I felt like, well, I need to be able to get stronger, so I'm not going to take any weight off. because you hear people all the
So
time.
you're logical enough to understand that wouldn't be an option.
Right, yeah. And then you hear people all the time like, don't worry about what's on the bar, like just get the work in. And my answer was always, well, it's easy for you to say because you've done this. And so now that I haven't accomplished much, but like for myself, like a huge goal was to, hit 3 plates. And now that I have, it's a lot easier for me to drop the weight because I'm like, I've accomplished that. I'm good. Now I understand what it takes to actually like work hard and get in like a really good workout, as opposed to like, no, I don't care what happens. I just need to go for it.
Yeah.
And so it's just getting more experience in general, and checking the ego at the door and just trying to get in a good workout as opposed to trying to hit a number. I think that's the biggest thing.
Today was really hard. We were doing like 30-second deadlifts, 40-second deadlifts. So it's like kind of tempo. You don't really see tempo deadlifts. You see tempo squats and you see pause deadlifts here and there. But we were doing tempo deadlifts, and I've done them before, and I know how bad they are, but I forgot how awful they are. It was hard. And then we did the tempo deadlift, a box jump, and a sled drag. And I was like, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I don't remember this being this horrible.
Yo, when you say 40 seconds, though, what do you mean? Like, did you do multiple reps and you did
A
like
few
8
reps.
seconds per rep or something?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I thought it was like 40 seconds on a rep. I'm like, what?
Oh,
yeah.
20 seconds up, 20 seconds down.
Yeah.
Like, for this next commercial break, you're going to go up for one.
Yeah, I want to say
that's
like
crazy.
I used a weight at one point, and this is when I was deadlifting around 700 pounds. I think I used like 315. And I think I did a set of 15 where it was like 4 up and 4 down. It was, I mean, I was smoked. I couldn't keep my back position anymore.
And that's cardio for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was crazy. And my lower back started getting all rounded over as if I was pulling like a max deadlift. So I was like, holy shit. But it's something I wanted to bring in again because I feel like I need to get a little better positioning. I'd like to bring that deadlift back up again. And Chad Wesley Smith pointed out like the best way to get better at a position you're not good in is to spend more time there.
Yep.
Hang out in that position a little bit more. So pause deadlifts are really effective, and I was mixing some of that in as well, trying to pull the weight, get a little hover, just so the weight's barely hovering off the ground, and then try to drive into it from there. But yeah, it felt good. It was just hard, and we were going at it pretty good, and we had a pretty good flow going, and Andrew came in and he kind of wanted to jump in on it, but I know he told me a few days ago that he tweaked his back. It's like, no, dude, like just go warm up. Go. I felt bad. Like I'm like, fuck, I don't want to. He's my homie, I want him training with us, but at the same time, I'm like, I just know that he's probably gonna kill himself over here. So
well, you said it best at the end. You're like, I wouldn't be a good coach if I let you just hop right in.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it's definitely a learning experience because I was late.
It's almost like a parent.
Yeah, I
tell your kids these things, and you're like you're kind of mad and sad all at the same time.
Yeah,
you're mad at yourself for saying the shit that your parents said, and you're sad because you're like, oh, I don't, I want him to be able to play over here, but I just know that he's gonna get hurt. You know what I mean, or whatever the situation is.
Yeah, it was good. It needed to happen because you feel terrible for not making it on time. But then I'm like, well, I don't want to. Be the guy in the corner, like all left out. So I'm like, let me just see if I can sneak in here.
This picture's kind of funny though. I just picture you in the corner sobbing, and Mark's just like at the deadlift bar, just sad. The whole thing.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good for anybody about me being late.
It was kind of like that.
But I worked my ass off, and I think I don't know, made up for it.
Yeah. Do you warm up a lot for your workouts, or just depend on what you're doing?
I mean, nowadays I don't have to warm up that much before I head into, I just do like a banded warm up for the shoulder.
I think I've heard you mention that before, and that's because you think that's because of some of your mobility work and stuff.
I'm so much mobile now that like it doesn't take me a long time at all to get warm, and I can just like I do some quick banded warm ups, hop on the bar. I used to do a lot of like the Kelly Starrett banded, just did like a bunch of that stuff before, but I don't need to do that anymore.
You dedicated a lot of time outside of that to mobility stuff. You move a lot better. You've been doing jiu-jitsu for a while too, so that probably helped kind of open everything up, and now you just get warm mainly with the movement, right?
Yeah, I just get warm with the movement. That's it.
And then what about for jiu-jitsu? Jiu-jitsu is like a class, right? And so you go through like progressions and stuff in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, man, there's a warm-up at jiu-jitsu. There is a warm-up at jiu-jitsu, but You know, like that. This is so bad. You know, like, there's a student that always comes late to class. I'm that guy. Like, and I feel so bad saying this, but I'll always come in like 11 minutes after class starts. And that's like once the instruction is starting. I just managed to miss the warm up, oddly enough.
Right.
Never on purpose. But yeah, like I usually warm up.
I can picture you too, like proving a point and showing everybody, like, I don't need no warm up.
No, I do. No, I really do. But yeah, there is a general warm up we do during jiu-jitsu. I just like, I need. It's a bad purposeful habit.
No,
I'm not
I
gonna say
understand.
I do it on purpose, but I shouldn't do that. Anyway, oh God, I hope no one from that class is listening to this right now.
Well,
Everyone's like, I knew that motherfucker was skipping
Yeah.
out.
I'm sure Settlegate's watching or listening.
Settlage, no, yeah, he knows. Oh God,
He's
Yeah.
probably there 20 minutes early doing the
Yeah.
warm up before the warm up.
yeah. Josh is disciplined.
Cleaning up the mats before and after the class.
That
Yeah.
daily discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think you do that? Like, do you do that? Like, because usually, like when we have our podcasts and stuff, I think like you were late like once. I think you just like forgot or something. We forgot to even communicate with you or something happened. But you're not usually late for this ever.
Yeah. So,
Obviously, you want to get better at jiu-jitsu.
yeah. As far as the warm-ups go, I usually have a certain warm-up.
The only reason I'm grilling you on this, by the way, is because I'm pretty notoriously late for a lot of stuff.
No, and being late for this warm-up isn't, again, it's purposeful. I hate saying that and I hate admitting that, but it is purposeful. Just because I don't like some of the warm-ups. That's it, man.
I've never seen this side of you before.
I just don't like some of the warm-ups, and I do my own warm-up usually. So usually, like beforehand, like I may have been coming from the gym or something, but I'll have done already some stretches beforehand, like an hour or so before, and I'm already good. So I don't need to do that other warm-up. So then I'll come in a little bit after.
It would be one thing if you were just like went in cold or with like
I
no
don't
knowledge of
go in
anything.
cold. I don't go in cold. But I have general things I do that warm me up that I know work really well. So I'm just like, this stuff it's not good.
Does anybody ever bug you about it? Anybody ever say anything to you?
No,
about it?
because there are other people that do the same thing.
Oh, okay.
It's actually there's a meme about it, but it's a thing in the jiu-jitsu community that a lot of people do at a bunch of different schools. Okay. It's like that guy that comes in notoriously just right after warm-ups, and yeah, that's like a thing.
When I was a kid, we used to have my parents are very religious, and we'd always have people drop in from church just randomly, and they would go, they would just come over. They're like, oh, it's kind of like in the neighborhood, and they'd go, oh my God, they're like, oh, I shouldn't intrude at this time. It's 5 o'clock. I didn't know, and they knew my mom was always like cooking these big dinners and stuff. I don't want to intrude. It's like, oh yeah, you just showed up just for dinner.
Now you're gonna eat.
Yep, showing up for the good stuff.
Oh God. Yeah.
You're a bad human being. I knew it.
Hey, we
got proof.
We all have a few things that we do that aren't ideal. God damn. So that's one of them.
Would there be any way to make the warm-ups better to where people
what if
don't?
Nsima led the way?
No, let's not. No, Nsima doesn't need to lead the way. Cassio's warm-ups are perfect. No, they really are. Cassio's warm-ups are actually literally great.
I'm just above them.
No, that's really not it, bro. That's really not it.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Oh God. Anyway,
What else went down in L.A.? We remember that podcast that we did? That was sick at that coffee shop.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's amazing how many people walked in on that though.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were listening. There was like a bunch of fans
It's like
started
10
to grow.
seats. There were like 10 or 11 people
Yeah.
sitting there watching. A few people
cheering.
outside.
I've heard a couple of people cheering, clapping.
It's one thing to like get work done in a coffee shop, but it's another thing to turn the entire coffee shop into your studio and have everyone in attendance.
Turned in like a seminar.
Yeah, exactly. It was,
But we don't have proof of it because
I mean,
Nsima was supposed to help with the crank, and he never did.
Yeah.
and it was a mobile crank, so
Mhm.
that's why that's what messed it all up.
Nah, we still got to get that extra part. I
Well,
guess.
who lost the data though?
The machine, I guess
The
we
machine?
can say. Yeah.
Computer error.
Is it AKA Andrew? Andrew is the machine.
So I did everything I could to recover said files. So anyways, this like life-changing podcast that
If
only
you hit the button that says REC, if you hit it twice, it shuts it back off again. You know.
yeah.
So the first time turns it on.
Yeah.
The second time shuts it off.
It is crazy though because you guys know how like Russell Brand is in LA. Well, I mean not
Yeah.
us, the listeners. So Russell Brand came into the coffee shop and he just recently got his blue belt. So he started talking to us on the podcast because we had an extra set of headphones about his blue belt experience, which is so dope. But Andrew and the crank
Again,
and me not being able to get the crank, we missed all of that information.
if we had the crank going to where it produced its own power
Yeah.
and the coffee shop outlet didn't shut down on us,
Mm-hmm.
That did happen a couple times.
yeah. So I have 3 files from that podcast. There's one 3-minute clip where it's Mark saying, "All right, we're going to shut this thing down." And then 2 other clips.
Post that.
It's funny that one recorded. I'm gonna shut this down.
Yeah.
2 other clips that have absolutely no information on them.
Oh,
Wow.
I was so
That's
upset.
funny.
the lost files. Damn it.
Oh yeah.
So we also went down to Los Angeles to collaborate with some other people. We got an opportunity to have Tom Bilyeu on our podcast. A lot of you guys are familiar with him. You've seen his YouTube. He's got over 1 million subscribers over there, and he's pumping out some really great content. He's doing a nutrition/health podcast that he's doing nowadays, along with his impact theory, which has really taken off and made some huge strides. Some of you guys may also know him as one of the original co-founders of Quest, and just an extraordinary guy who's really just trying to put up a lot of points on the scoreboard every single day. And we go into this giant mansion down in Los Angeles, with this crazy, insane view. It's one of those homes where you just want to be like real quiet and you're not sure like how to act. You're not sure what do I do with my shoes? Do I
Yeah.
take all my clothes off? Do I leave them on? Like what goes on? Like how does this all work? You know, and this beautiful like staircase. It's a really beautiful, beautiful home. And then you walk in and the first thing you see is this giant studio, which was crazy because it's like that's his living room.
Yeah, it's built out. It's super dope. You know, sometimes when I watch those impact theory videos, I for some reason used to think that there was like a little bit of an audience there, but I guess that's just the way they set that up because like there's no one there but like you, the interviewer, and like some massive cameras.
Yeah, I guess I thought there was a crowd there as well. Did they maybe put a crowd in there? Like they put crowd noise in there? I can't remember.
I don't know. Like I don't know. Maybe
I guess the
it's-
beginning of it sounds like I know that like there's like the music. Now that I think about the beginning of the podcast, maybe they have like a little bit of a crowd roar or cheer going on in the beginning.
But yeah, no, it was such a sick setup, and he's a big fan of the Matrix too. So he had a bunch
Yeah.
of pictures of different things from the Matrix in his house.
Yeah, but I was just I was sending pictures and video to Chris Griffin, so our head of media over here, and I'm just like, look at this place. He's like, where the heck are you? And I'm like calculating, like, okay, that's a $10,000 camera, and that's one of 4. It's like, and that one over there's 5, and then these lights. So I'm like, dude, I was in my head just like looking at it. It was 300,000. Yeah, and that's just like rough estimate on what I could see.
Yeah,
And that's not even thinking about what else is like around there, you know?
yeah. But that's such a sick setup. The way everything was, it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's like when I walk into a gym, I'll see like these like a say in strength or something. You see Alico plates and you start adding it up. You're like, man, like, yeah, just getting a couple Alico plates, probably not a big deal. Get some used, not a huge problem. But to have a set that, to have a whole entire set or multiple sets,
Yeah,
I mean, you're really talking about laying out some crazy amounts of cash. I mean, $20K, and dumbbells are crazy expensive. Even just a regular set of dumbbells. I mean, you want to get up to 150s or so. You're talking about, for a nice set of dumbbells, 30, 40 grand.
Phew. I
And
did
then
not
some
know
of the
that.
ones they have there, they're like Alico, and they have Watson.
Alico dumbbells.
Yeah,
Whew.
they have Alico dumbbells. They got Watson dumbbells, and they're super accurate with how much they weigh. The handles rotate, and all this other crazy stuff. And yeah, it's just massively expensive. And that's what it was like being at Tom's place, where you're like, I don't have any idea how much this fucking mansion costs, but it's pretty damn nice.
Yeah.
Was there any, like, even though like you are where you are right now, was there any type of inspiration that you gained from any of that, or is this just all stuff you've seen and you already that world?
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's always great. It's always inspirational and motivational to see different perspectives and see where different people are, and then what they're doing with that fame and what they're doing. I think while he and I think are different people, like even though he's somebody we collaborated with, and I'd love to see him again. I'd love to communicate with him more. Like I don't see he and I being like buddies because we seem so vastly different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I love what he's doing with his. I love what he's doing with the recognition that he's built up, and I think it's awesome. I mean, he's helping inner city kids. He's putting so much time, money, and effort into that podcast, and of course, it's for reward to himself. But so many people are. I mean, impact theory. So many people are impacted by what he's doing, and I haven't really come across a lot of people that don't know who he is, and he's doing a good job of crossing over from the fitness world into the average person, and that's what we talk about here all the time. We can talk all day about how to get people healthy and how to get them strong, and it doesn't really work great because we're talking to the same set of people all the time, the same people that follow you. A lot of the same people are following me. A lot of the same people are following Andrew. A lot of the same people are following the show. And so somebody like him, it's like, shit, man, I hope the 1 million followers, I hope that turns into 20 million, because I hope that he is the breakout guy, or I hope someone does it. Maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody else. I don't care who it is, as long as it's somebody. What I see going on right now with the History Channel Strongman show.
Yeah.
It's like, I have Robert Oberst, I have his number, and so I haven't communicated with Robert in years. It's been a long time since we talked, but I just congratulated. I said, dude, and you're on Rogan, like, dude, that is so cool, and that's so great for the strength community. And I think a lot of people have a tendency to look at what this guy's got or what this guy's doing, and it's like, no, that's you're going about it the wrong way. That's for all of us. The getting's good for all of us. If Steph Cohen and Hayden Bowe are killing it with their online programming, then that means that opens up avenues for a lot of the rest of us to do really well if we want to pursue something like that. So that's kind of the inspiration I get from that. I see him, driving towards these things, and I'm like, man, that's really opening up the doors for a lot of the rest of us to push forward and stuff too.
Yeah. No, like, first off, I don't know if I've been in a house that big before, so that was crazy. And the amount of people that we met that weekend, in terms of, I'm going to talk about the monetary value, like in terms of just all of their net worths, I was just kind of boggled because it was just crazy to me. So that just seeing that was cool. But Tom, there's this book that he always talked about. It's called Mindset. And even in the podcast, both of them, he was talking, and he talks about mindset so much. But it's a book by Carol Dweck. And I went through it literally like right after I heard it mentioned. And it talks about like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And you've probably heard about stuff like that. But he's always want to mention that everything comes down to an individual, like, believing that they can do something. Like, no one's inherently talented. Everybody can gain knowledge or whatever, just practicing and putting work into that. What was the post that you mentioned, actually, that he posted? That, like, given enough time, you could catch up to anybody, even if that's not totally true. That's that same type of deal. Like, you see someone like Elon Musk, and you, in the back of your head, you're like, I want to do that. But if you're fixed about it, you're like, okay, no, there's no way. But if you believe that you can just like work and work and work, maybe you might not catch up to Elon Musk, but you'll get really freaking far. So that book in and of itself was really damn powerful. I think everyone needs to just listen to it or read it. But it was it's a pretty impactful book.
It doesn't really serve you very well to succumb to the fact that you're probably not going to make it when it comes to like reaching this status, right? The only time that it's beneficial is when you're really, that in the case where you may actually really get hurt from it. Like, let's say let's say you have an idea, you have a concept, you want to create a business around this invention or product or whatever it is, and you're about to shell out your life savings, like that's the, it's never great to have self-doubt, but that's why self-doubt exists, is it does protect you. Maybe your idea is not as good as you thought, but maybe there's a way you can go about doing it slightly differently that makes more sense for the current position that you're in.
Yeah.
Those types of things, but it doesn't really serve you very well if you're super smart and you're like, I want to be known as like the next Albert Einstein. It doesn't do you a lot of good to think that you're not going to be seen in that same light. So you may as well just roll with it. You hear people say like, fake it till you make it. And there's a lot of different shit that goes into that. It's like, you can't fake it till you make it unless you're something, because you can't cheer for yourself unless you have some character, unless you have some balls, unless you have something to really cheer for. So you can't get up on a chair and fucking shout that you're great and you're the best and you're gonna do all like these affirmations. Like those things, they'll only work if you know that you're already putting in work. So if I'm working and I'm training really hard and I'm going to, close my eyes and say, I'm going to be 6% body fat, and think these things, and I'm going to look like this. If I envision all these things, right, that I want to do, they'll only really happen is if you are already putting in some of the action. And if you have shown yourself in the past that you can do things to improve your body fat percentage, then your whole body's like, yep, we're on board with this because we've seen you do it before, dude. And you got to 8% last time. You'll probably get to 6%, and it will make it that much easier to get to those steps. But man, I love being around people like that. It was and the questions. I mean, he was fucking killing me with questions because everyone's conflicted. Everyone's a walking contradiction, and the questions, the way he was stacking them up, it was interesting way that he was doing it. But it was cool how he wouldn't let me off the hook. He was like, no, you just said this, no, you just said that kind of. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. And it was fun. It was fun to practice that. It was fun that environment made me extremely nervous. I am used to a lot of different things, but, not that, and like, if I was on like Dr. Oz or some shit, I'd freak the fuck out because I have experience in front of a camera, but I don't have that. I've never done that, and I don't know Tom. So it was different. I wanted to be in that situation. I've wanted to be on his podcast for a while. I wanted to sit down with him, and I wanted to be uncomfortable. I wanted it to be that way. It was cool.
Yeah, especially with the question about or you were explaining it to him about like knowing who you are is knowing who you're not. Right. He's like, well, what do you mean? You're like, you went into it. He's like, okay, but like, what are you talking? Like, it was just like, oh man, like he explained it. Let him go.
But like the thing is, the cool thing about that is, first off, he was so forward with the grilling, but the grilling ended up bringing out more about what you were saying, and it helped it to be even better understood at what you were getting at. So it wasn't grilling just to grill, right? There was never no like ill intention, but he was probably like himself trying to understand it a little bit better because he maybe didn't even get it all,
Yeah.
So that's what smart people do, man. They don't let shit go. They keep asking you tons and tons of questions. Probably one of the most inquisitive people I ever met was Jay Cutler. He asked you so many questions. You're like, dude, but it's of no, I don't think it happened by accident that the guy's super successful. Ron Penna, who we also had a chance to hang out with for a while. I mean, he asks questions that he even knows answers to. He can sit there and grill you. But in this post, I think it's the same post. I'll try to get a link for you and see hopefully I won't forget. He talked about, Tom Bilyeu talked about, you hear so many people talking about gratitude and happiness and things. So he said that in his opinion, he thinks about 80% of your life should be lived there. The majority of your life should be lived in this. I'm thankful for this food. I'm thankful for my wife. I'm thankful for the fact that I live in the United States. I'm thankful for thankful for all these. There's a lot of things to be thankful for, right? You can go over this giant list of things, right? And yeah, that does feel really, I'm thankful that I have the job that I have. I'm thankful for all that I have my health, right? But he said 20% should be lived in, and as he put it, 20% should be lived in aggression, where you're like, fuck you, motherfuckers. I'm going to beat all your asses to death until you die from it.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree. I agree. And so that's the contradiction and the conflict that he was catching from me, because, you know, on one hand, I might have said, you know, part of knowing who you are is knowing who you're not. I know that I'm not this guy, and I'm not that guy, and I'm not that guy, but I can still be great in this way. And then he was kind of following it up with follow-up questions that were kind of contradicting some of that. And so it was an interesting like exercise to go through that. And I'd love to do it again. I'd love to get on a show again sometime and just communicate with him more. I reached out to him and to his wife afterwards, because he talked about how obsessed his wife is with working out. And I said, hey, you guys got to come up to Super Training and get some training. And she's like, I'd love that. And Tom wrote, he's like, I'd hate that. And so, you know, hopefully we'll get them here to Super Training. But I really love the practice of getting grilled like that with those questions.
Yeah, it made me also like really think about, like, for longer than I ever have, about like that quote. Because I kind of like, I understood it, but then after him grilling you about it, it really made me think about it like that whole weekend, and you know, it makes sense in my head now.
It's something that can really give you a lot of peace. You know, it really can. It can, if you're, because I mean, first of all, you shouldn't really try to be like anybody else, but that's impossible. Mm-hmm. It's impossible not to do it. I mean, think about when you were 7 and you hung out with a kid that was 9. All you wanted to do is be like that kid, right? Yeah. That's all you wanted to do. You saw the kid swing a bat or throw a ball. You're like, oh. You're like, I want to figure that shit out too. You know, and he's chewing gum and like popping bubbles or doing whatever the hell he's doing. He's doing tricks on his bike. Remember your bike?
Oh man.
You know, popping a wheelie or jumping over something. And you're like, man, I can still remember some of these kids' names in my head. That's how impactful it was. It's like, that's all you want to do is be like that dude for 10 seconds.
Or if somebody knew how to skateboard really well.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So
you're like,
jealous.
How the hell do you figure that out?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like you can always figure out different aspects of like an individual you admire to try and like, maybe not like, yeah, you could even say emulate, like just an aspect of them that you're like, I really like that about this person. I can probably do that. Let me take that, you know, because I can't be The Rock, right? But I can be as jacked as The Rock. Maybe,
yeah.
Right.
Well, and there's things that you can take from people. I agree 100%. So, you know, all the different things that go into making up The Rock, it's like, who the fuck even knows what that even means?
Yeah.
Because we don't know all the behind the scenes, how much stuff he really does in a day. You know, it's got to be insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, what do we see The Rock do on Instagram more than anything else? We see him smile all the time, right?
Yeah.
And he's a good-looking guy, so it's like, could we all smile a little bit more? Sure. Could you work on, you know, this is like hilarious, but it's like, do people work on the way that they greet people? Like, probably not. But like, what if you worked on your handshake? What if you really looked somebody in the eye and took a second? Like, I have friends that when they give me a handshake, they always put their arm on me too. Like they put their hand on my arm, and they shake my hand, and they look me in the eye. And there's a lot of things you could take from somebody else, like Bruce Cardenas, who works for Quest Nutrition. And I've mentioned this many times before, is like, you want to be a guy like Bruce. When I see Bruce coming, I get all happy. I get excited because he's fun. He's funny. Mm-hmm. There's very rare occasion that he's not smiling. I mean, he's always happy. So when I see him, it triggers me to be happy too. And I get excited. And it's like, there are a lot of things that you can steal from other people that are, you know, maybe like I know a couple of people that are super complimentary. Every time you see them, they always say something about your shirt or your hat or I mean, you can go overboard with it, right? But like, who's ever going to be bummed out that they got a compliment, you know?
Yeah.
No one's going to be like, fuck you. Hey, nice power shirt. Fuck you, right? I mean, no one's going to be that angry about it, right?
Although Chris Bell gets pretty grumpy sometimes. We were telling him.
That's because he's short.
Yeah, we were telling him, like, dude, your traps are looking sick. Yeah, but they're they're uneven. It's like, oh my gosh, come on, man.
And he has beautiful calves also.
Well,
does.
They're
He
gigantic.
does.
Those are cows.
Cows?
Yeah, those calves are cows. Giant.
Oh man.
Oh,
He's
man.
sliced up.
Yeah, he's looking good.
I think sometimes, some compliments that you give people, sometimes they're like, people don't know how to take a compliment sometimes.
Mm.
And there's another area you can work on. I used to be like that every time. I would like deflect a compliment. I was like, why don't I just fucking take it? Maybe there's going to be a day where no compliments come my way. So I should just take all these ones and I should just say thank you.
Yeah.
Like now people come up, they're like, you changed my life, the podcast, the gym, or whatever the hell it is they're talking about. And I just sit there and I just listen and listen and listen. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate it. I try to actually really listen to what they're saying and, have follow-up questions. So they know I'm fucking paying attention, that I actually care. But it's those kind of, it's those little things in life that you can probably take from other people and it doesn't even have to be a celebrity. It doesn't have to be someone famous. Could be something like like something I really admire about my dad. My dad does not care how long something's going to take. He really doesn't. Like, so if he's going to spend time with now, if I'm with my kids, I might be like, okay, we're going to go out to eat, but I need to get back to bed because I'm going to wake up at 3:00.
Mm.
My dad, he's a grandfather. He's retired. He still does income taxes and stuff, but he doesn't have a lot of other obligations, so he don't care. He doesn't care how long something's going to take. So he could be there like building something with the kids, and he'll never get like frustrated or whatever. When I was younger, he was more the way I am now. But it's like, man, that's a great trait, just to be super patient and just to kind of just sit there and let shit take time.
That actually is very difficult. Like being
hard.
patient isn't necessarily difficult, but being patient like that, just not caring how long something's going to take. Whew, that takes work.
I hate being stuck anywhere. It's the
Right?
worst.
No, but I do know a few people like that, and they always do surprise me, especially when like they didn't have a plan to do something, but they just sit and just like help you with something for hours on end. It's just, wow.
There's certain things that I just recognize to be important too. Like I will kind of reflect and think about my dad and think, okay, how would I know that he would understand how important this is. So maybe I should try to figure out a way to understand how important it is. And that might just be sitting here and talking with an employee for an hour, about nothing, like not work, not nothing, talking to them about their grandma or whatever. And how important is that? That's everything for that moment. That's what that person's talking about. That's what's on their mind. They're important to me. They're important to the company. That's what's important for the moment. And it's hard. It's hard not to be like, oh man, like I got to make an Instagram post, or oh man, I got to be over here. I got to go. You're like kind of thinking, oh shit, I got to go shopping. I don't have any more steak at the house.
Yeah.
And you get you start wandering, right? And then you're thinking about me, and you're not thinking about anybody else. And that happens too much,
Yeah. No, like my mom's like that in a certain way. Like one thing that she's just, it's crazy. It's like if somebody needs help with something, she'll just immediately try and help them with it. Whether she gets a call or a text from somebody, like she will immediately just try to help them with it. No matter what she's doing, she'll drop everything and at a dime and just do it.
She's got a good focus, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just like, and it's shocking because she does have a crazy amount on her plate, but she can still manage to do that for people in her life. So that's another thing. Yeah.
I noticed with Tom Bilyeu as well, is that like he was very much like on time with everything. He was very precise with the kind of amount of time. When he and I podcasted together, he just let that take whatever amount of time it needed to take. And then when we podcasted with him, he never seemed short with us, and I cut the podcast at a certain time because his responses to some of the stuff that we asked him were pretty lengthy.
Yeah.
And so I was like, there's another time to do another podcast with him, but I don't want to take up any more of his time. And it actually ended up being perfect because I was like right around the time that he had to go. But that entire time, I never felt like he was anxious to go do something else. I felt that he was spending time with us, which is really cool because I know that he has a lot of people come through the doors. I know he's got a lot of guests on the show, and he was very professional. And the time that he had with us was with us.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
It was.
Yeah, he was never looking over his shoulder or checking his clock. He was 100% locked into everything we had to say.
Yeah.
Which was, yeah.
And that's something about him too. Like that's why he's able to ask such good questions too, especially with your podcast, because he's always like really listening to what's being said in front of him. I feel like maybe he's thinking about other things, but you don't get the idea that he's thinking of something else when he's talking to you. You feel like he's talking and he's listening to you.
Yeah.
Cool,
what
dude.
about our boy Ron Penna?
I was just gonna say that was for me. That was the best part of the whole trip. I normally can't wait to fly back home, and I remember looking at the clock, thinking like, "Oh man, like we're almost out of time here," and that the whole the Quest building, like how crazy was that?
Yeah.
Just
oh God, Ron is super funny, and he's he's crazy. Like he in the best way possible.
Yeah.
He's crazy in like the best way possible. He reminds me of like, oh God, have you seen American Psycho?
It's been a hot minute.
If he was a good guy, if the guy in American Psycho was a good guy and he was like an awesome guy, that's what Ron reminds me of a little bit.
He's got all kinds of crazy shit figured out.
Yeah, he's just like he's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, we went to I guess the Quest headquarters.
Yeah.
Which we'll be doing some future podcasts out of now because he mentioned we can utilize that whenever we want, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But he had like an equation like behind him, like on his board, and we're like, "What is that?"
Don't take a picture of it.
Yeah, he's like, you can't take a picture of it. It's like with something for. He's like, "That's cancer," and we're like, "Oh," but like that's his quest. That's his mission. Is to he wants to figure out a way to eradicate cancer, and he had he devoted a lot of money and research, and not just him. He had some other partners in it as well, but he had a keto pet sanctuary where they studied dogs on a ketogenic diet for I can't remember how long, but they did a lot of research, and a lot of the dogs went into remission for cancer. But it's also certain types of cancer, and they didn't save every dog. They lost a few, and that's where his focus was.
Yeah.
I was like, you want to talk about that on the podcast? And he's like, no. And I was like, why not? He's like, because a few dogs died. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I think until we have it more figured out, he's like, then it would be great to talk about. But he's like, for now, he's like, we're not anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, they did show that, or at least they felt that carbohydrates were negatively impacting the types of cancer that these dogs had. And with a dog, you can just feed them, they get fed by a human, so you can feed them whatever you want. It's not like a human where we have all these choices to go into the grocery store and eat whatever we want, so it's not as complicated. But they gave them these foods, and the dogs were able to thrive. The dogs were able to get stronger and feel better and not have cancer anymore. So it's pretty wild. Cancer is like a metabolic disease, is what some people refer to it as.
Yeah, and then
meaning you can alter it with your nutrition, just like you could with type 2 diabetes.
And the other person in the room, whose name I can't remember, but was another only in LA encounter. He asked him, he's like, "Did you lose somebody to cancer? Like, why are you so passionate?" And he's like, "Half of the people in this building are gonna die from cancer." And he's like, "You have twins, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "One of them's gonna die from cancer," and the room just got silent and really awkward. And he's like, "That's why I'm gonna cure cancer."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like, talk about a mission, right? Like, that was intense.
It's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Ron's just really interesting to talk to, the way he kind of I call it holding court. Like everyone's like listening to him. It's almost like a mini seminar every time you talk to that guy.
It really is.
And I mean, we talked about all kinds of stuff. We talked about cancer. We talked about amino acids. We talked about lifting. We talked about stretching. We talked about improving Nsima's mobility by blowing his brains out. Remember that?
Yeah.
He goes, if I walked up behind you right now with a gun and just blew your brains out, he goes, you'd be extremely fucking flexible.
This is why this.
He's like, we'd be able to take your leg and do whatever the fuck we want to it. So his point was, and it's a good point, is that your mind is a limiting factor in the way that you're able to move, because your body's like, you have pain receptors and different things like that. And once your brain's kind of cut off to that, he just has such drastic
But that's how crazy this conversation was. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because that was when he was talking about doing the splits, right?
I was like,
yeah.
I just was like looking at Nsima and I was like, that's a little drastic. Like, we don't need to kill him, do we? I mean, maybe knock him out and try it that way first.
How about how mad he got when we couldn't answer one of his questions?
Oh
though?
yeah, he got
It's
super
like, shut the
frustrated.
fuck up. I can't believe you guys. Right?
Yeah, he sat back and Ron
Like
is
that's it. I'm not going to say anything else until you guys answer this question.
and if we haven't
Oh,
said already,
God.
Ron is one of the original co-founders of Quest Nutrition as well.
Yeah.
Along with Tom Bilyeu and along with another person or two in there. But we've had Ron on the podcast, so if you want to listen to that podcast, go search for it, check it out. It's Ron Penna, and he's just a lot of fun to be around. But yeah, he's crazy. Like he's like these guys said. He said, I'm not gonna talk any further until you answer my question. He just sat there with his arms folded. He's like, this is ridiculous. Guys don't know this. And I think he was saying, like, what's the most abundant amino acid in your muscles or something like that, right?
It was like the leucine or whatever. But-
Yeah, they just kept yelling it. What's the most abundant? What is it? What is it? You have to. You guys call yourself athletes. You don't know this answer. I'm just like, oh
gave
my
us,
gosh.
He gave us this giant lecture on sleep,
yes.
and he was going nuts about sleep. And he's like pointed around the room, and he got really mad at Josh too. Remember?
Yeah.
He got super mad at Josh because Josh doesn't know about the mouth tape or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's like, do you pick up dirty needles from the side of the road and stick them in your arm? Josh's eyes just got wide, and he's like, no. And he's like, well, then why the fuck do you not sleep with your mouth taped shut? He's like,
Yeah.
you need to sleep with your mouth taped shut.
Oh God, no! But the cool thing about like Ron, like even he was another one that said he's like, because I think I asked him like, how do you do so much when you're like so busy? It's like, I'm not busy, but I like to read. I like to read a lot. Like he just likes to learn shit. That's why everything we were talking about.
I love how he
was able to
shrugged
just-
that off so quickly. He was like, I ain't busy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He's like,
right.
how
not
dare
busy.
you? How dare you ask me that question?
right. So yeah, he's just another one of those people that just like loves to continuously learn about things. Even though he's ridiculously successful, he's not stopping. He's just on to new things, on to learning and doing new things.
We figured out another key factor that he shared with us too. You just have to get wealthy. That's the key.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he mentioned that. He was like, yep, yeah, well, he's like, shit, yep, you just have to get wealthy.
Yeah.
He's like, you want to be able to sleep, you got to get wealthy. You got to hire more
You got to
people.
hire staff.
You got to have staff. You got to have people help you. And he was even mentioning to our friend, he was even mentioning having people help with his kids.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, get those kids the hell out of your bedroom, have a nanny or something.
He's like, you need to hire a security guard that stays right outside of your door, that stops the kids from running in and be like, what do you need? What's the emergency? He's like, and then you need another door inside that door that barricades you in, so that way, if there really is an emergency, they'll get to you. He's like, until then, he's like, there's no emergency.
Does he have some? He must have some soundproof room or something.
Probably.
right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's a mindset thing for him to be like, no, I'm not busy, but in actuality, he's sleeping 8 hours and working the other 20?
I think that he loves a lot of the stuff that he does, and I
Except
think,
lifting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he hated a lot of stuff too, which was
He
interesting.
did.
But he hated some stuff less than other things. Like he hated. This was amazing. He hated feeling tired more than he hates to sleep.
Yes.
So he hates sleeping, but he hates the feeling of feeling tired midday. So he will get his sleep. And he hates eating healthy, but he hates being fat worse. He hates everything.
He hates
Yeah.
working out.
He hates working out, but he hates being out of shape worse.
Yeah.
He'd rather have the muscle mass. He'd rather have like the longevity of it. So
Yeah. I asked him, I was like, is it
Hates it.
possible to get jacked? Well, I almost said jacked off. Is it possible to get in great shape by just eating Quest pizza? And he kind of like shrugged it off like, I mean, you technically could.
well, that's what we did that day.
We had so much pizza
that was
there.
good pizza.
Did we go through what, like 8 of those things
yeah.
or something?
Seriously, yeah. But I think we went through like.
That's when you.
Yeah.
That's when you know you made it. We made it on this goddamn podcast.
Yeah.
Let's just put it out there. The owner of Quest, one of the original founders of Quest, was making us Quest pizza and serving it up
Wow.
to us.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
actually was.
It was hilarious too,
That's
and it's
amazing.
like, does like no one else know who he is or something? Because why didn't like another employee come over and be like, "Hey, I'll get that for you"?
Maybe that's just what Ron does.
Like even if I was going to try to get a slingshot for somebody and like go walk into the warehouse or something, one of you guys would probably stop me and be like, "No, I'll go get it."
Yeah.
No one, no one cared. No one stopped him. He was just kept cooking up those pizzas.
But it just seems like he treats everybody. He treats everybody well. I'm pretty sure he treats his employees really well too. Like he doesn't give anybody special treatments as it seems. You know,
When it was funny when we walked in and he was like on the phone. I was like, "What are you doing?
Mhm.
Like, why are you pretending to like work here?" And he's like, "Well, I do come in about once a week." I was like, "Oh, okay." But I think he's gotten over the hump, right? And so maybe things are a little bit more on cruise now, and I think he just picks and chooses doing what he wants to do. And I've always wondered, like, well, why the hell is he's always had all these trade shows, but then he also doesn't. He's not a guy he's not the face of the company. He's not a guy who like wants recognition in that way. So I've always been confused. I'm like, why the fuck is he here? But he's interested in, like, he loves watching the company grow, and he just is genuinely likes conversation with the customers, the people that are buying Quest bars and buying the Quest pizza. And the Quest pizza was amazing, by the way.
Yes, it was. I need to definitely buy
spinach.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. The spinach one was actually the best.
I normally don't like that pizza or that style, and it was
white.
Yeah,
white pizza, right? Yeah, no red sauce on there. No marinara.
Yeah.
No,
that was the best.
But that
pizza.
was legit. The pepperoni was good.
Pepperoni's still the best in my opinion.
What was it? Spinach, pepperoni, cheese. What else was there?
Combo.
The combo was good too.
Mhm.
I like the combo more than
Pepperoni's
pepperoni.
still the best.
Just buy some Quest pizzas, people.
Was it just because we were hungry?
No,
No.
Those were good.
those are really
They
good.
have them at Target, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Every time I would go to the one in Elk Grove, I'd buy all of them because they either have them in stock or they're completely out, and I would buy like 6 to 10 at a time.
Yeah, those pizzas are really no joke, people. Like they're really good pizzas.
Bruce is supposed to be sending me some of those pizzas. Come on, Bruce. Where are
Send
you
me
at?
Some.
Where are you at, man?
He's
Send me
on
some of those
Instagram
pizzas.
right now somewhere.
Yeah, but I think so. He's probably slanging out some of those Quest bars. He always has a box of those with him everywhere he goes.
Oh God, I have your box.
Oh, Quest bars?
Do you remember? Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We brought a box, and I think I have
Oh
it at home.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to bring it in.
That's okay.
Well, yeah, they had all the chips. They had all of the bars, like even the ones I'd never seen that they even had. They were all just right there. Yeah, get whatever you guys want.
Yeah, they have those hero bars.
That's the first time I ever had that.
Yeah. The hero bar is unique, man. That thing's good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of weird. I think I like all protein. I don't think I've ever met a protein bar that I don't like.
I have.
Except for like
Remember
years ago.
I was
They
gonna
were
say power bars back in the day.
They were pretty foul, but for then they were good. For then they were okay.
That's true. Yeah.
They're coming a long way. I think we're probably far off of this, but there's going to be things that you eat not only that are not bad for you, but they'll create stuff that's actually good for you. That actually is amazing. That actually tastes, like the Quest pizza and stuff like that. It's not like it's not as healthy as like eating some chicken and rice, right? But it's another option because it doesn't have tons and tons of carbohydrates and stuff like that in there.
But the question is do you even want it to taste that good? Because if it does, then like how much of it are you going to eat?
I know we were going to end up in the same problem. We're going to end up back in the same spot, technically, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I told Ron, I was like, I would eat 2 whole pizzas in one sitting, and his eyes just lit up. He's like, you probably shouldn't be doing that much. I was like, but it's so good. Like, you just said I could eat whatever. He's like, that's not what I meant. Oh, my bad. It's too good. To me, they taste like, do you ever get Red Baron frozen pizza?
It's been a while.
Yeah, I know. That's what they taste like to me.
What's great sitting with someone like Ron is Quest Nutrition. It's so weird the way that the company was, and I think it's just because Ron is obsessed with trying to get an answer on like what's the best nutrition, what's the best diet, what's the best way to go about doing things. And so he had this kind of dream team of doctors and nutritionists and people that come around that knew all the leading research and science on nutrition and this diet and that diet. And so they ended up kind of falling onto the keto diet. They weren't trying to research keto. They were trying to research, what was optimal, what was going to be the best. And it wasn't really optimal necessarily for performance. It was optimal in terms of like longevity.
Yeah.
And it just kind of kept coming back and coming back and coming back every single time. It was just like, look, man, people eat too many fucking carbs. And so it just kind of kept coming back to this style of diet, and that's the Quest bar is kind of born out of that in the sense that it's more fibrous than it is carbohydrate driven, and so therefore it doesn't spike your insulin levels up, and you can get away with having a Quest bar or two even on a ketogenic diet. And so it's awesome though to be around the guy that can explain everything to you kind of in the simple terms, since he's extracted this from this doctor and this from this doctor over here, and you can ask him all kinds of different questions. I mean, he was hammering us about like sleep and recovery and all that different stuff. And I remember when he was going around the room, he was like going around the room, and he was like asking people questions to something that was already brought up previously.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he's like, quick. He's like, what's his daughter's two names?
So nervous,
right?
but yeah.
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 And then again, I think he picked on Josh. He's like,
No, that was me. He picked on me on
Oh,
that one
yeah.
because I got it wrong. It's like, you're underslept, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
He just looked at you, or he looked at all of us, and he's like, "You're underslept." Yeah, you a little bit. And he pointed at me. He's like, "The first time I met you, you were really underslept, or sleep deprived." It's like a little bit better now, which is true. It's very much true.
He asked me the name of the
daughter,
my friend's twins.
Your friend's twins.
Yeah.
And I got one of them. He's like, oh no, that like I think I said a name that was wrong. He's like, nope, that's wrong. And it's again, I was underslept.
And I think Josh might have remembered one of the names or something, right?
Yeah.
I remembered. I think I got both. I don't know what they are now,
Yeah.
but I was unsure of one of them, so I said it quietly. And then he's like, "I heard somebody else say it. Did you get that answer from someone?" And you're like, "No, I didn't." And then he was like, I forgot what the reference was, but he was like, "What are you? Someone from Austin, Texas?" Because that's where Josh is from. He just kept grilling him pretty bad. It was pretty good.
He was getting killed.
Yeah.
Josh was getting shelled. He couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
He was defenseless.
It's definitely
Poor guy.
just an amazing individual to talk to for that long. It's just I think we talked to him for like what 2.5, 3 hours, and he was just. I mean, he was working before, and he just sat there and just talked to us.
Fucking drove me to the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, man.
I was jealous
Such
of
an
that.
awesome guy. And I did go back and listen to that podcast episode when he came back. It is great. So for anyone who hasn't listened to it, go to that Ron Penna episode. You'll enjoy it a lot. I don't wear my sunglasses anymore after talking to him.
Same here.
I don't wear my sunglasses at all anymore.
Sunglasses weakening your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he would talked about holding stuff that you're reading like at a certain distance, right? To try to challenge your eyes a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he fucking referenced all kinds of crazy stuff. Smart dude.
Very. Very.
I don't know what we're gonna do. We need to have him on the podcast again, though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
I think it will be.
But yeah, the LA trip in general was a lot of fun. We also got to run into Dan Fleischman, who we'll have on the podcast at some point. You guys will learn a lot more about him.
Nice.
Just a different type of dude, man. He's from what I've read on the internet. He's the youngest guy to ever have a publicly traded company, and he's made money in a bunch of weird and crazy different ways. And I'm looking forward to having him here on the podcast because I think there's a lot of cool stuff we can get into. I think he's done like poker and just he's done all kinds of different stuff. And the business that he has now is like he has this like affiliate farm type of program, and he helps companies, but his company can help out all kinds of different companies. So it's pretty neat that what he's gotten into. I think it's pretty cool. It'll be good to talk more to him about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we ran into some really, really cool peeps. We got to rub elbows with some people that are just fucking killing it
Yeah.
on a really high level. And just, one guy was like wealthier than the next. And we're like, whoa, what the hell's going on? What the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
But, it's not. And then, like, having, being able to hang out with O'Hearn, go to his house and spend time with Mona and his girlfriend, wife, don't know. Baby mama, and to spend time in his house and spend time and see his garage gym that he's setting up, and then to get on his podcast was a lot of fun. And then we also got to see Titan, the baby.
Yeah.
Got to see Mini O'Hearn, and
It's a cute kid.
yeah, that kid's on a lot of duck eggs, man. That kid's getting jacked, but that was awesome, and just a fucking awesome trip.
Mm-hmm.
Any take homes from that trip, Andrew?
Not to like put anyone down, but like seeing people at Tom Bilyeu's place seeing like how much equipment that they're using, even at Michael Hearn's setup, with his podcast. I see what we have, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be, over 1 million subscribers, like everything, right? We have all the tools. So I got extremely motivated when I seen all that, like all the, again, like all the access that they have. It's like, oh, we're right here too. Like we're hanging out with all the same people.
Yeah.
So that shit got me really fired up. And then just seeing how the way they handled at Tom's place, how they handled the podcast guests coming in. Like there was a whole like a camera set up for us to take pictures of Mark. It was a Fuji Instax camera. So like I think instant Polaroids. That's what it was. And you see a wall with like all the guests that have been there, and it's like, oh shit, like now boom, there's Mark. Okay, so like we've it's Mark, but it's like we put our stamp here, like we kind of tagged a wall. And just seeing like that whole experience. And then again, like we do some similar things here with like our TV, how we have our guests, their name and a picture of them. They had that for Mark. It really, like, I got super fired up. And then of course talking with Ron Penna, it's just like my brain's exploding with like all kinds of information. And then just having the podcast crew. I know the coffee shop podcast went to shit, but just having fun with you guys, like, dude, we have a super strong team now, and just like the motivation from a trip like that cannot be replicated in any book, any seminar, any YouTube video or anything.
Yep.
So I'm just like super grateful for the whole opportunity. But the biggest takeaway is, dude, just fired up big time.
That's great.
Yeah.
The 9th anniversary of the Slingshot is coming up July 27th. That's July 27, 2010. Is when Andy and I launched the Slingshot out into the universe. I had the idea for about maybe 2 or 3 years. You guys heard the story many, many times. I won't repeat the whole thing, but I got told many, many times it's not a good idea. I started to kind of buy into that, and eventually I just thought it was a good idea for so long. I held on to it for so long that I was like, fuck it, I need to make it. I figured out a way to make it, and I made it with Andy. We created the product, we created this brand together, and I had to kind of soul search, and I had to ask myself how the hell I was going to be able to make this product, and because she couldn't really help me with the concept that was in my brain. You can't really show somebody your vision. You're going to have to maybe like draw it out for them, or show them something that represents the closest thing you can think of to it, and say, this is what I want to do. And that took me a lot, because I was like, well, my dad can't help me with this. My brother can't help me out with this. I'm like, I need to just, and I got super frustrated with myself, and finally just said, okay, you have a basic concept of what it needs to be. Now, what kind of resources do you have? Who do you know that can actually make this product? And I didn't know a manufacturer or anything, but I'm like, all I really need to know is someone that can sew this thing together. And so then I went to Andy. I told her. She said, my friend Marilyn sews swimsuits for our swim team, and she knows how to sew. I met Marilyn at Starbucks, went over the plans, and met her there again the following week. And bam, there was a Slingshot. I tried it on, and I walked into a Fitness 19 that was just a few hundred feet away from where we met at Starbucks. I said, hey, Marilyn, just wait right here. I got to go try this thing on. So I went and tried it out, moved around 135 for a few reps, moved around 225 for a few reps, got up off the bench, just head to toe, goosebumps, because I was like, fuck, this thing's awesome.
Yeah.
I think this is what I was trying to make. This is what I was trying to create. And I went back to Maryland and said, hey, can you make a few more of these suckers? Because I need to try these out in my gym and make sure nobody dies. And I need to test the strength of it and everything. And then from there, it was a big old process of, trying to find manufacturing and things like that. But we got to tell the story the other day. We shot some stuff that you guys will see coming up on Instagram TV. We got to kind of tell the beginning stages of it back when Andy pretty much did everything, and I just shot video content of the product in the gym. But something I think that can be useful to you guys right now is if you do have an idea, if you do have a concept, just follow through with it. Just figure out a way to try to make it happen. Ask yourself, what resources do you have? What's in your corner? Before this podcast got rolling today, we talked about how many hip circles we see in the market nowadays. They're everywhere, right? Things have changed drastically from the time that I started. 9 years ago, the slingshot was around and there was no competition. There was nobody else in the marketplace. And now you see many, many people throwing their hat into the marketplace of this category, making gear and fitness equipment and knee sleeves and these kind of things. There really wasn't anybody around. There was like Ray-Ban. They've been around forever. There was Inzer. They've been around forever. But there's a lot of new companies that have popped up. And it's because things are a lot easier now. It's a lot easier to make a T-shirt. It's a lot easier to make a hat. It's a lot easier to make a mug. You can Google stuff and you can make it. It's no secret. And I don't care if there's more people, more competition, just more people for me to whoop up on. So it doesn't really matter too much. It's very hard to execute on this stuff. And so sharing some information is not really a huge deal. But really the main thing is like, if you got something, don't wait, man. There's nothing to fucking wait for. Do not wait. The longer that you wait, the more you're going to doubt yourself, the longer that it sits around. Now, if it's something that you have been thinking about for a long time, that's a better indication that it's a really fucking good idea and that you should move forward with it. If it's something that I never think it's a good idea to take on an investor. I never think it's a good idea to borrow money. And so given those scenarios and telling you not to wait, that's something you'll have to figure out on your own. What does that mean to you? How are you going to get started? Maybe you can figure out a way to get started and get going with like minimal means. Maybe this podcast that you want to start, this concept that you have, maybe it's got to start with just using your phone. Maybe it's got to start with with no budget. That's how I got started. That's how I got rolling. You can make it happen too. 9th anniversary of the slingshot's coming. Super fired up, super excited. Look for some cool stuff coming up on markbellslingshot.com. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.